Hello, and welcome, welcome back. Welcome to 2025. It's been a while since I've seen many of you, and there's new faces among you, and that's always great too. And I kind of told them that I expect anywhere between 80, 90, 100. So thanks for coming out, even in this cold weather. It feels a little like winter outside. We are really looking forward to this presentation today. I was telling Todd before, when we were setting up here, that I read about it on their webpage, and I am surprised, as wonderful an organizations as it sounds, that I've never heard about them before. And if you're that way too, hopefully we go away here with a lot more information about what they do, because it sounds quite a story, and a story that we want to be a part of. So, Todd Zeltwanger, is that the last name? Did I get it
Perfect.
Right? Okay. German?
Yes.
Yes. Has served the Director of Fund Development for Cultivate Food Rescue for the past 5 years. Prior to coming to Cultivate, he had served as a Vice President of Development at SIA College for 10 and a half years, and is a graduate of Purdue University, and has worked in a variety of sales and fundraising positions in his career. Todd lives in Bremen with his wife of 36 years, Marty, and they have 4 children and 4 grandchildren. So let's welcome Todd.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'm not done. The next one.
That's right.
Julie. Julie was born and raised in Southwest Michigan, just north of Bristol. Other than a 4-year stay in Germany with the military, she has stayed close to northern Indiana. She currently lives in Mishawaka with her husband Mark and 3 rescue dogs. Between them, they have 6 children and 2 incredible grandbabies. I know about that. I mean, grandbabies are incredible, aren't they? And Julie has been fortunate enough to follow a varied career path that enabled her to acquire numerous skills in many areas. She started her career as a military spouse working in the social work area. She was fortunate enough to be a stay-at-home mom until her children began school, and then she worked in the school system in payroll and human resource administration until her life brought her to South Bend in 2013. She spent over 10 years in marketing and sales and has now landed this wonderful job with Cultivate Food Rescue as development of director for the Elkhart County branch, I guess. And she has one quote here yet. "My life is full and fast-paced, and I spend as much time with the family as possible while juggling the fantastic job and attending as many events, charity and otherwise, as I am able with my amazing husband." Welcome, Julie.
Awesome.
And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Todd. I think you're going to start with a video.
Yes, Linford, thank you very, very much. This is a pleasure to be here. I've been looking forward to this. Julie and I have been for several months here, and when he reached out to me and asked if we would want to come and present, I wanted to ask the question, how many of you that are here today have heard of Cultivate Food Rescue? Okay, so it's not Linford. You weren't the only one, right? There's been a few others that have heard us, and most maybe haven't.
So I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah, it is a pleasure to be here. And so take a few notes. This is the Lifelong Learning Institute, right? So I think there's a quiz. Linford told me afterward.
Just fun learning.
80% you pass, and then you can leave without any interruption, right? So I want to start out by showing a short 6 to 7 minute video clip. This will give you a good overview of what we do at Cultivate. And then when that's over, I'll give you a little history of how it all started. And then I've got a few slides to go through that will talk about food rescue in general and what that is, and food waste and that kind of thing, okay? So we'll start out with the video, and hopefully you'll enjoy that, and we'll go from there.
For a long time, abundance and waste were inseparable.
We are here to renew a worldwide commitment to banish hunger. Today, the average farmer in the United States can produce 3 times as much as he did in 1945. Half of humanity is still undernourished or hungry. Malnutrition is widespread and persistent. So long as freedom from hunger is only half achieved, so long as 2/3 of the nations have food deficits, no citizen, no nation can afford to be satisfied.
Not anymore. Not here. Across the region, you're helping us make history through Cultivate.
Okay, thank you.
Disrupting the cycle of waste, rescuing perfectly good, nutritious food, and helping local families who can use it. Innocent children in our local schools who may not eat on weekends or during holiday breaks. Over 1,300 children in local schools and growing throughout the region. Cultivate.
It's not a small number. When you visit Madison and schools like that, 97, 98% of them qualify for free and reduced lunch. So every child realistically struggles over the weekend, with food.
I mean, it's sad. It's sad to think that so many people live in such conditions that, they don't have what they need basically to live.
Wanna be here by your side.
And local food pantries like this one.
They're in tears just saying that this has really, really blessed my family because we have grandmothers who's taking care of grandkids.
One gentleman said, I didn't know what I was going to do. A big old guy with tears just coming down his face. And he said, I didn't know what I was going to do until today I saw your pantry, and this is going to help me get to next week.
They're good, healthy meals. It gives them an opportunity to have a nice, good meal with their family. And then every Friday, Stacia, our guidance counselor, she has a list of students. So every Friday around 2 o'clock, she goes and gets the items out of the freezer, and she just starts making her way through the school. The older kids, they don't want to feel different. So we have worked out a plan for them where they don't have to receive that in front of their peers. They don't have to do anything. It's in their locker.
I'll be there for you.
It's so important that we're not wasting food that could be used by someone else. And I think a lot of times when we have food, then sometimes it's hard for us to think about the fact that someone else might not.
I think it's funny to be able to help out people with food and make sure they have free food and pass it out to them.
The younger kids, we just go right into the classroom and we put it right into their backpack for them so it's ready to go. They aren't struggling with it and trying to figure out what to do with it. It's not drawing attention from every other kid in the room because they're wondering what just got delivered to that student.
We share the Cultivate story a lot because it is a true partnership between ourselves and the community. It's a big community effort between all the culinary chefs on campus and operations to add to the net effect of what we can give back to the community through Cultivate.
Our chef and volunteers prepare meals, kind of like TV dinners, that are wrapped and then they're pre-made so that schools and kids and things like that can just throw them in the microwave and heat them up so they have meals to eat on weekends.
Cultivate is organization get a lot of support from lots of different vendors or sponsors. Pretty amazing.
I think that's maybe even the most important to me is that single mom in so many cases that has, one or multiple children, it's working full time, it's really trying to, and stresses over the weekend, where am I getting enough food, and the grocery store prices keep going up, and to give that mom some help. I know 6 meals are coming home this weekend.
Cultivate, a vital organization that couldn't exist without the thousands of good people who volunteer their time and energy every day to feed local children right here where we all live.
It's humbling that people come and spend their time, donate resources.
making local history by disrupting the process of wasting perfectly good, nutritious food, having real impact on local lives, particularly when it comes to our children. For a long time, abundance and waste went hand in hand. Not anymore. Now, there's Cultivate.
There is no battle which is more important than the battle which you have undertaken, nor is there any struggle, large as this may be, that offers such an immediate promise of success.
No neighbor hungry, no food wasted. Cultivate.
We have the ability, as members of the human race, we have the means, we have the capacity to eliminate hunger from the face of the earth in our lifetime. We need only the will.
They just need a hand up.
And it really makes a big difference.
It really does make a difference.
God, I thank you so much for Cultivate.
They don't have to worry if they're going to have something to eat over the weekend.
Lord, I thank you for those that are giving. Lord, I pray that you would expand this endeavor.
Rescuing 1 million pounds of food a year today, 20 million pounds a year tomorrow, when our new cold storage facility opens. Join the No Neighbors Hungry, No Food Wasted campaign today. Cultivate.
Okay. Well, I hope that gives you a little overview of who we are and what we do. I would like to just share now a bit about how it all started. Cultivate began in July of 2017. There's a agricultural company in the town of Bremen where I live called Headsight. Don't know if any of you have heard of them or not. The owner of that business, Mr. Rich Graham, he developed a patent on a sensor that goes on the head of a combine. And it tells when a farmer's sitting up there in that tall combine, he can make sure that with that sensor on his head, that head is at the right level when he's going over different terrain to be able to harvest the crop in a maximum efficiency way. So he was very successful with that company. And eventually then he started a restaurant in the town of Bremen called Edward Christian Dining. It's in downtown Bremen. And that was going on for a couple of years. And then as you saw in the video, our executive director of Cultivate, Jim Conklin, who's actually from Elkhart, he was the CFO at Headsight. So he was looking over Mr. Graham's books when he became the CFO. And he said one day as he was looking over the restaurant's books, he said, "Rich, you ought to get rid of that restaurant." He said, "It's losing you money." He said, you just ought to get rid of it. He goes, "Well," he said, "I'll tell you what." He said, "I want to keep the manager of the restaurant, Randy." He said, "You and him go figure out what we can do to bless people and use food to do it." He said, "God has blessed me." He says, "I want to help other people, so I will support whatever you come up with and help you get it started." So they said, "Okay, it's a deal." So the two of them actually started out, they were going to do teaching culinary arts classes to students from the Crossing. You familiar with the Crossing School here, started in Elkhart County? Actually, there was one in South Bend too. And so they were going to bring students down to Bremen to the restaurant and use the kitchen to teach culinary arts. So they heard about a place in Indianapolis called Second Helpings, who heard that they had a culinary arts curriculum. So in the spring of 2017, actually it was the day after the Indianapolis 500 race in May of 2017, they drove down to Indianapolis and went to Second Helpings to learn about their culinary arts curriculum. And when they got down there, they saw all this food and they saw all these volunteers. And they said, "What is this?" And they said, "Well, this is our food rescue division." And all of a sudden the light went on, and they said, "I think this is something that we can do up in South Bend. This might be just the answer to getting something going." So they came back and talked to Mr. Graham about it. He said, "All right, I'll help you get it started." And at the same time, Notre Dame was upgrading their suites at the football stadium up there. If you've ever sat up there for a game, it's an all-you-can-eat game-long buffet. So the people that do the food, they over-prepare because you can't run out when it's all you can eat, and people pay a lot of money to sit up there. So they heard about us, and they said, "We're going to have food in excess, and we don't want to waste it. So we'll give it to you." So that was one, that's how it got going. And so we started out, our first building was over on Niles Avenue in South Bend, the old Madison Center Hospital building, if you're familiar with where that was. The south end of that building had a kitchen and a freezer and a refrigerator, and some volunteers started to come in, and it slowly grew as Notre Dame was the first food donor, and then the second food donor to us was Nelson's. So the Porta Pit, all that food. So we're still getting food from them today. And so as this thing got going, Randy, who was the manager of the restaurant, he always had an idea of how can we improve the food content for children that are taking food home on weekends. And there's a lot of programs out there called Blessings in a Backpack as an organization, and most of the food that they give out to children on weekends is non-perishable food. The bags, the cans, the boxes. So, but if you're hungry, right, it's better than nothing. But he said, "I think we can do better than that." And he said, "There's so much food out there in different places that people are throwing it away. Healthy, nutritious food. That's the kind of food that he always envisioned that we would rescue." And so I'm going to have these come around here. Julie's going to pass around these, as you saw the trays of food being filled on the video. This will kind of show you it's like the old TV dinners, right, that you could buy in the store. This is kind of a little smaller version of it. So we said, hey, we think this maybe could be a real help. So why don't we do a pilot program in a school and see if this is going to work? So the school we started with in South Bend is right next to Memorial Hospital, called Madison STEAM Academy. Probably 98% of those children, kindergarten through 5th grade, are all on free and reduced lunch. So that means they eat breakfast and lunch at the school Monday through Friday, because they qualify for that. But the weekends, a lot of these children may or may not have adequate food to eat at home because of their family situations at home. So we sat down with the principal of the school in the spring of 2019. It took us a while to kind of get this thing going, and so that's when we did a pilot there. We sat down with the principal, Deb Martin, and she said something to me that I never forget. I haven't forgotten, and I always share it with people because it made such an impact on me. She goes, "Todd," she goes, "when our kids get off the bus," first of all, she said, "we never allow running in our school here except on Monday mornings." And we said, "What do you mean by that?" She goes, "Well, when they get off the bus on Mondays, they run to the cafeteria for breakfast because they hadn't eaten all weekend." And you're like, "No, that can't be." She goes, "Come back on a Monday." And we did. And they ran. And now she said 80% of our problem here is parental irresponsibility. But when you're kindergarten, 1st, 2nd grade, right, you can't go out and get a job and earn money to buy yourself food. So they said, why don't we try 100 students? And let's give them 6 of our frozen meals every Friday, and then let them take them home. So we started that in February of 2019. And an amazing thing began to happen as those students took those meals home. Attendance increased on Fridays at the school because they knew they were getting food. Now, we did not pick the students. The school, the social worker, Barb, that you saw in the video there, she and her staff would identify the students most in need, and they were the ones that were receiving those meals. Their academic performance improved, and they misbehaved less. Because think about it. If you came to school hungry on Monday morning and you hadn't eaten all weekend, and now you're sitting in math class, how much are you thinking about math? No, you're thinking about that stomach of yours that's growling that hasn't eaten all weekend. And so you think about the ramifications of that and how important healthy nutrition is for a young student just starting their academic career. Especially a lot of these kids came from a tough background where poverty was something that they just, were a part of. So to get out of that cycle, you have to do well in school. So making sure they had meals on weekends was a big thing. And then bringing it over to Elkhart was an interesting story. What happened when the Elkhart Chamber has what they call a Leadership Academy group every year, and they work on projects. And so they heard about what we did at Madison STEAM, and they reached out to us and said, hey, could you do a pilot program over here in Elkhart County? We'd like to try the same thing here. And we said, if you can find us the food, because most of our food is going to the Madison kids, we'll do it. So one of the persons that was in the leadership group that year worked for Elkhart Schools. So she went back to the schools, and I guess in Elkhart Community Schools, there's 5 main kitchens. Maybe it's different now, but at the time, so all the food that was prepared for all the schools were made in 5 different separate kitchens. And so, but they oftentimes had excess food because you don't know who's not going to come to school each day, right? So what we started was 20 students that they identified, and they picked Woodland Elementary School in Elkhart as the school. And so the food was actually collected from those Elkhart kitchens, brought back to South Bend, and then volunteers actually put those meals together in those trays, and then we brought them back to Woodland Elementary. So 20 of those students took home meals on weekends from March till the end of the school year. And what's interesting about that story was that happened in March of 2019. Channel 22 came and did an interview when we launched that program at Woodland. And it was on the news that night. And then they actually put it out on the wire. And 3 days later, our world changed at Cultivate because that video went viral. And we had over what's now 12 million views on the CBS News website. If you would go out there and see it, you would find that video clip. And we started getting calls from the Today Show, from USA Today, from all kinds of top news, Washington Post. We actually were on the Rachel Ray show. We got invited to go out and be on that show, and we're like, and the thing was, they said, how did you do this? We have the same problem in San Antonio, Texas, right? We have kids that are hungry on weekends. We're wasting too much food. Will you help us get this started? Kind of a thing. And we're like, at that point in time, we were just 5 employees. And we had all these calls coming in and people wanting to interview us. And it's like, whoa. And even today, we don't know of any program in the entire country that's doing a frozen meal backpack program made with rescued food. The non-perishable programs are out there, but with what we have, we've not heard of anybody across the country. So we're getting now contacted by other organizations and other places saying, hey, could you help us get it started in Fort Wayne? And because it takes some doing to make it happen, but it is possible. And the biggest thing you need is a source of food to make sure that's always going to be ongoing, because you can't get it started and then all of a sudden say, well, we don't have any food now, and then it stops. But another interesting story, when COVID hit, we thought we were going to be out of business in March of 2020 when everything our world changed here, right? Because we were getting food from events that were happening, from weddings and different schools, but everything was shutting down. So we're like, well, how are we going to survive if what we do is putting meals together for people and there's no food? So interesting story. We had been around a couple of years at least. So in April of 2020, we started getting phone calls from places that were shutting down and said, we've got all this food in our freezer, in our refrigerator here at the school or at the business. We're going to throw it away unless you come get it, or we'll bring it to you. So we said, sure. So in April, we rescued 80,000 pounds of food in 1 month. So we had, like I said, we had been around long enough, so we said, hey, I think we're going to make it. In June of 2020, Prairie Farms Dairy out of Fort Wayne called us and said, we could bring you 1,700 gallons of milk every week if you can take it, because we can't get it through our normal distribution channels because of the supply chain issues with COVID. And we said, sure, bring it to us. So what we started to do with that milk is we started calling pantries in St. Joe, Elkhart, and Marshall County saying, how many gallons would you take of this 1,700 every week, right? And then the same thing started to happen with bread. Bimbo Bakery had all this excess bread that they were bringing to us, and we were getting it out to pantries. So all of a sudden, because of, we thought we were going to go out of business, and what we ended up doing is starting a new program to serve food pantries called the Cultivate Cares Food Network. So now, today, we are serving, I think it's about 225 different pantries, soup kitchens in St. Joe, Elkhart, and Marshall County. 75% of the food that we rescue, hope you're taking notes here, this will be on the quiz. 75% of the food that we rescue is going to the pantries. So what happens is every day we put on our website and we sign up a pantry, they come on board with us. They can see each day what we have available, and they order it from us, just like Amazon. If you order from Amazon, right, you can just place the order, they get it ready for you, and then we put it on our people put it on a pallet, and then the pantry owner comes and picks it up, or pantry operator, and then they take it back to their pantry and pass it out to their clients. And then 25% of our food are going into the meals for the children. So we started out with 120 students back in 2019, right? Those pilot programs. So fast forward to today, we're serving 1,500 students every single weekend, each receiving 6 of our meals. So if you do the math, that's 9,000 meals a week, all put together by volunteers, all made with food that would have been thrown away and wasted. So we waste, and I'll maybe go to the slides here now, kind of walk through some of this. Is food waste a problem? Yes, it is. And you can see the percentages. At the store level, restaurants, and in homes. 40% is the number that we waste in this country. 133 billion pounds of food is wasted in this country. And if you want a visual of what that looks like, you know where they play the Rose Bowl game in Pasadena, California, every New Year's Day? If you filled that Rose Bowl up with food from the field all the way to the top of the stadium every day for a year, that's about 130 billion pounds of food right there. So that causes problems. You can see number of people in our 3 counties that live in poverty. 23,000, almost 24,000 are children. And 35 million people in this country are food insecure. And when I say food insecure, I mean they are not sure where their next meal is coming from. So now what's interesting is we waste enough food to feed 100 million people. But there's only 35 million that are in need. So we have enough food. So what we're doing at Cultivate, we just need to have that kind of thing happening in more places, right? where that food is being repurposed and brought in, broken down, and gotten back out to people that need it. So it's really a basic, it's not rocket science what we do, right? There's all this food out there, and now we're hearing about it, and we're getting it in and getting it back out to people that need it. Okay, why this matters. Yeah, methane gas is a problem. When food is wasted, 20% of what's in a landfill is food waste. So that causes issues. There's our mission statement. We want to be a leader in perishable food rescue, procurement, redistribution, and education to help meet the nutritional needs of communities. Here's a quote from a student that's receiving our meals. You can read that. Interesting story, too. We got an email from a parent of one of our students that were receiving the meals, and she told us, she said, you know, we were feeding our daughter on weekends ramen noodles and granola bars on the weekends because that's all we could afford. My husband got laid off from his job, and all of a sudden our daughter starts bringing home these Cultivate meals on the weekends that come from some pretty good places, some pretty good chefs, and it just made a big difference for them and help them out. So volunteers. So we would love for any of you, if you would like to, we have a facility now in Elkhart, and Julie's going to talk about that in a minute, about the opportunity there to come and volunteer and actually put some of these meals together or put the meals in bags for us. It's usually about a 2-hour volunteer shift. And we have, I think last year, 2024, we had over 11,000 volunteers between South Bend and Elkhart, just in a couple of months that Elkhart was open. And so we are so blessed that we could not do what we do without volunteers. Businesses, we have a lot of monthly volunteer shifts from area businesses. They all come in wearing their T-shirts. It's a bonding opportunity for a company, for a family, for a church to come in and spend a couple of hours working together in this way. And individual people, you can come in by yourself. You can come in with a friend and spend a couple hours. We'd love to have you. Oops, yeah, that talks about the number of meals, and this is a little bit outdated at this point because we're packaging 9,000 meals in South Bend, and now we've added Elkhart, so that number is, I think it's closer to 12,000 meals a week now we're putting together. Yeah, some of this is, so yeah, I mentioned the Cultivate Cares Food Network, and there's quite a few of those here in Elkhart County that we serve at the window, I think, Julie, right? And in Napanee called the Center, the Family Christian Development Center. And there's a handful of others. I have a list up here. If you have a question later, I can tell you whether or not we're serving that pantry or that school. So there's our website. Linford talked about our website. You can go to cultivatefoodrescue.com. You can sign up online to be a volunteer. And if you would like to ever make a donation to our cause, you can do that on the website as well. We operate totally 100% on donations. We don't sell any of our food. We give it all away. So we don't generate any revenue, but God has blessed us, and we are growing and thriving, and it continues to today, almost 8 years later. And just some other pictures of our meals. There's a variety. We try to have breakfast type food, and lunch and dinners as well. And you can just see we also get donations of livestock. So we can put 2-pound packages of meat, hamburger, sausage, make that available to pantries. Farmers that donate livestock to us, since we're a not-for-profit, can receive a tax deduction for that. And it helps us and helps them. Protein is like gold for a lot of these folks that visit a pantry, having meat and that. So Yeah, just some other pictures and some other stats of how we've grown in pounds of food rescued and distributed. And just to give you an idea of how we grew in it, and this was talked about in the last part of the video there, we were growing so much and we were hearing about more food being available, but we had limited cold storage available to us. So some of the perishable food we had to say no to because we just didn't have the room for it. So we said, if we're going to get into this big time, we're going to need a cold storage facility. So we launched a capital campaign to build a 22,000 square foot cold storage facility in South Bend, right next to our current location there. And it was a $10.2 million capital campaign that we launched in February of 2022. And in August of 24, we reached our goal in gifts and pledges. Gifts from individual people, from companies, from churches, from service clubs, from grants. We have a grant writer that writes grants for us that was very successful. And so now that we have this new cold storage facility, as I mentioned, 22,000 square feet, 2/3 of it is a freezer, 1/3 of it is a refrigerator. So that's all it is cold storage. Now we can take upwards of 75 truckload quantities of food because we have it. So I told you, our first year in operation, we rescued 50,000 pounds of food for the entire year. And then I mentioned to you that in COVID year, we had 80,000 pounds in 1 month. So our fiscal year runs July 1 to June 30. So last fiscal year that ended June 30th of 24, we rescued a little over 2.5 million pounds of food. So we went from 50,000 pounds in year 1 to 2.5 million pounds in year 6 or 7, I guess. Now that we have this new cold storage facility, we are on pace this year, and we're halfway through this fiscal year. We're going to almost hit 8 million pounds of food, on our way to eventually getting to 20 million pounds of food a year. The food is out there. It's amazing where it comes from. I mean, you would not believe the calls we get. We get Chick-fil-A, all the Chick-fil-A restaurants. Here's a trivia question for you, or a fact, I should say. The Chick-fil-A chicken sandwiches, when they make one, if they haven't sold it within 20 minutes, it goes into a bin for us. They can't sell it anymore after 20 minutes. So then we rescue that. We get their fries. We get all of that. We get Trader Joe's, the store in South Bend. We get Starbucks, their breakfast sandwiches that are rescued. I mean, it's just amazing where all the food comes from. And so if you ever would like to come and see the facility, if you have a bus from the community here, whatever, we would love to give you a tour, let you see it firsthand. Certainly the volunteer opportunities are there. If this is something that interests you, I think, we have 4-year-olds to 94-year-olds that come. There's a job for everybody. And so it's just, personally, it's very exciting for me, rewarding for me to be a part of this because it's making such an impact. And it's enjoyable for me to come and talk to groups. And I've never had a group or a person, and don't anybody here be the first one, just say to me, well, why are you guys doing this? I mean, nobody ever says that. Wasting food, right, is sinful. I mean, you think about even Jesus, right? When he fed the 4,000 and 5,000 people in the New Testament, what did he tell his disciples to do afterward? Pick up the basketfuls left over. Let nothing be wasted, right? So there's the foundation. He modeled it. And, he's given us the resources. Let's not waste it. We've got people out there that are hungry, and we've got enough food. So let's figure out a way to make sure they can get it. And almost 8 years into this, I believe we're making a difference, making an impact. And now we come over here to Elkhart County. We're serving a number of schools here, and the volunteer opportunities are starting, and we've got a lot of the RV companies. Really, it all came on the heels of them saying to us, because they were coming to South Bend to volunteer. They said, man, it's so far to come over there. Could you put a place in Elkhart? And so we found, and Julie's now there most of the time, the old Bullard's Farm Market, just north of the bypass on County Road 17. It was sat empty for 4 or 5 years. We're leasing that space now. And so we're adding more volunteer shifts. And I'm giving, Julie, I should just turn it over to you now. I'll let you give a little overview of Elkhart.
You're doing great. You can just keep right on going.
And then we'll take questions from you. How are we doing on time? 2:12. We got a few minutes, Linford. Okay? All right. Oh, you want a question first? Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Julie. Sorry.
Okay, I'll just give you a quick update on Elkhart then. So November was our official opening, and we kicked that off with a ribbon cutting and volunteers that came in from the Community Foundation of Elkhart County. They were one of our biggest supporters, and along with, we probably had 120 people that day. So it was a big deal, and a lot of what we are doing now is awareness. Just, like I heard just a moment ago, nobody knew it was there. You said, oh, Bullard's Farm Market, we know where that is. So now we're trying to get the word out. We're here, we're open, and we're taking volunteers. So, so far, we've done very well with that. We've gotten, gone from 1 shift per day from like 2 to 4, which fit into a lot of schedules that timing worked pretty well. We've added another shift per day, a couple days a week. When we can get enough people, we'll do an evening shift. We're doing once a month, we'll do a weekend shift. So depending on what the need is, we are very flexible because we are very new. So we have room if you have the inclination to come over and see us. Anytime you want to stop by, there's somebody there. You can take a tour, just peek in and see what we're doing. This morning, before we left South Bend, they were packaging breakfast, and I got very hungry. They were making, and I think it was leftover from Chick-fil-A. It might have been Chick-fil-A or Starbucks, but they got a cheese omelet, sausages, and apples, like an apple mix, and it looked delicious. And I'm thinking, how wonderful is that to have this fresh food for kids that don't have it? And I think about the fact that when you picture getting food from a food pantry, you picture cans and boxes and nothing fresh. So that difference that we're making is a box of macaroni and cheese can't be made without milk, without butter, and we provide those things. So, just having the opportunity to have, I call this my job. It's not a job. This is something that I get to do every day. I get to go into that Elkhart facility and help package those meals and help get it out to the community and go visit people and say, hey, can you use our meals? Can we help you in any way? And so that's why we're here today. So if there's something that we can do that there's a need someplace, please let us know. And if there's a way that you can help us, we would love to have you. So we can take some questions now.
Okay, we have mics that we'll bring to you so that the people that are online, and there's 30 some online, they can hear as well.
Obviously, you have to deal with food safety, so you must have nutritionists and people who watch after how food's handled and stored and all that stuff. I'm assuming that.
Absolutely do. Yeah.
But the question I have is, this is an enormous operation. How do you pay for, how many people are on staff? And I'm hoping they get decent salaries, because you need a good salary to run a good charity program. That's all there's to it. Yeah. So how many people on salary? And do you plan to expand any further?
Right now, as I understand it, we're at 30 employees, and a couple of those are part-time. So that's grown. And then, of course, when you think of the volunteer hours, that is almost, I think last year's hours was like 15 full-time employees for free that we had. Now, as far as moving to a new location or adding another, we've had conversation with Fort Wayne, some people over there that have asked us to consider doing something over there. But we've also gotten requests from nearby counties that are contiguous counties to ours, just looking for some food assistance. So we know there's needs in the 3 counties that we are serving now, St. Joe, Elkhart, and Marshall. But I would guess once we get up to 20 million pounds of food a year, that there'll be some other counties close by that will receive food from us as well.
Just before we take the next question, I think it's important to note, and you mentioned food safety, we will take food that has been prepared but not served. So when we're talking about a buffet style or a restaurant or something, it can't have gone out to where somebody could have touched it. It had to have stayed at the the hot boxes and the refrigerators. It has to stay at the temperatures provided by the state and federal regulations. So nothing that we take is unsafe at any point.
And speaking of, I mentioned Notre Dame, I'll mention this real quick. Up in the suites, we rescue after every home football game about 3,000 pounds of food. And they bring that down in the elevator. We drive our truck under the stadium, we load it up, bring it back, weigh it in, and volunteers put the food together. And it's good food, right? It's not peanut butter and jelly that you're getting in the suites at Notre Dame. So
I want to give an example too of Elkhart County. So over Christmas break, Grand Design RV, the gal there called me and she said, we gave all of our employees a ham for Christmas. We have 50 hams left over. They were in their freezer. And I said, would you like me to come get them? And they brought them over. So it's a lot of that is word of mouth. And that's why I'm saying it's important for what you hear today to maybe pass it on, because that word of mouth is so important to be able to even get more food. So now we can take it. We've got room for it.
I think Phil has the mic, or somebody has a mic over there.
Yes, I just wondered, is there anyone who goes into the children's homes to see if there are roadblocks there, like I don't have a microwave, or my microwave is broken, or, whatever?
The social workers at the schools are aware of some of those situations, and we do hear about those. And we are able to, at times, find microwave ovens for some of these homes that don't have any.
Another program that we work with Whirlpool. So if we come across a pantry that says, man, we have the need for more meals here, we have a population that we can serve here, but we don't have room for them, we connect them. We are the connector between the pantry and Whirlpool, and they get on a list, and anything when they can say, well, we need an upright, we need a chest freezer, whatever, the Scratch and Dent program through Whirlpool will provide one for them that's been refurbished and ready to go, and they guarantee that it'll be working, and they deliver it to them for free. So
my question was similar. Do the kids have access to a freezer for, 6 meals over a weekend, frozen, they're going to thaw?
Yeah, again, as a social worker identifies certain needs in the homes, then we will do our best, as Julie mentioned, to try to make sure they do have a freezer or a microwave to take advantage of the meals.
If we're aware of an issue, we work diligently to try to solve that for them.
Are Meals on Wheels connected with your work?
Yes. Through the window here in Elkhart County, what we are doing with them is, let's say we have a big storm coming up. We are going to, and so this has just kind of been in the works because they have a new executive director over at the window. So we spoke with her, Naomi over there. And so let's say you get your Meals on Wheels delivery on Thursday or Friday, and we've got a big storm coming in that's probably going to knock us out for a week. We'll make sure that we've got extra meals delivered so that they can be frozen and used as needed during that time period. Or if there's anything, holidays or a reason why Meals on Wheels would not be able to deliver, we will try to get back up ahead of time.
I have 2 questions. The first is, you must have chefs on staff. Is that right?
Yeah, who's talking here?
I am.
Okay, there you are. There, I couldn't tell you. Yes, we do. We have a full-time chef, and we've had a couple of part-timers. We're looking for a second one, and she is amazing. Her name is April. So we call it's like chopped in there every day, because we don't know what kind of food is going to be rescued and coming to us. So she's able to identify all that and see what would be a good combination for these meals for the kids.
And then my second question is, what in the world does the county health department do for you or with you? Well, we operate a huge food service here at Greencroft, and the state health department and the county health department can drive you crazy. And we always think we have a good food program, but I'm sure they are looking after you too.
We have regular inspections in South Bend by the St. Joe County Health Department folks, and but we've never had any violations that I'm aware of. All of our food handler people that volunteer, that run the volunteer shifts, are ServSafe certified. And so Elkhart County, maybe you know.
Elkhart is, yeah, we've started the relationship a little closer with them because of the opening of the new facility. So they came in and were very diligent, I will say, with their rules. But it was good. I mean, and it's honestly common sense things. And we have a really good staff on site that follows those rules to the T. So when you come in, you will be asked to please take off your jewelry, please wear a hairnet, please wear a beard net. Anything that could be an issue, we follow the guidelines as closely as we possibly can. So they have been great to work with, and not over the top like sometimes you would think, but it's been good.
The containers that the food families get, is there any way to recycle them or anything? What happens to them? Anything in particular?
We've explored that, and what I'm told is that because of the heating and the freezing of those, then it's difficult to recycle them. It just isn't. They get, when the meal's gone, then they're thrown out. But not to say that we won't ever come across another type of material or something where we could begin to recycle those as well. But
and cost is an issue too for us. We try to get everything done as low cost as possible so that we can make more meals. And so looking into things like aluminum trays or something that can be recycled a little easier is a lot more expensive. So there's always the pros and cons to every type of container you would use. And we get as much recycled as we possibly can.
So certainly you have some food waste too. What do you do with it?
It's a very small percentage. I know we do have one gentleman who comes and picks it up and actually turns it into some kind of a fertilizer, peat moss.
Yeah,
or
it's
something.
I think it's called worm castings or something.
Yeah.
So yes. So and then he bags it, and we actually have a couple bags on site now. He brought bags for us to see. So honestly, nothing gets wasted.
We've had some of it go to hog farmers.
Goes to slop. Yep.
As well. So yeah, very little.
I'm trying to figure out, how about family dynamics? The kid comes home with a whole bunch of meals. The rest of the family is starving.
We don't have an actual meal. You just saw the empty container right here today. But those meals are a pound and a half of food. So for a first grader to take that many those 6 meals home, they're definitely shareable.
And we are working on a family style meal. That's something that's in the works, but not feasibly, available yet, just because of the sizing and the types of pans that we would need. But I will tell you this, we work with school counselors and the social workers, and they can help identify within the school system. We do have a lot of kids that are at the elementary level that will take home more than one bag, so that their brother or sister in the middle school or high school also has food too. So if they're too cool to take it home.
I was going to ask that also. If there's a family that has 3 or 4 children in the school, possibly all elementary, do each of them get 6?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we work to make sure that the whole family is included, so that no one goes without. Did we successfully answer all your questions?
You got a couple minutes
Yeah,
yet.
there's one yet.
Every program, there's always somebody that's trying to take advantage of you. Have you run into that? That there's abuse? Somebody is...
There are isolated cases of that, but we rarely hear that.
Yeah.
So...
I mean, you assume it's out there, but you don't. I
I
don't
mean,
see
once
it.
the meals go home, right, you really lose control over what is done with those. And if a parent would say, hey, I'm going to take it instead of you, that
Is that
unfortunately
terrible at
can
the end of the
happen.
day? I mean, somebody's eating, so if they're hungry and they eat, it's not abuse, I don't think, so.
So we've got some literature on the back table there as you're leaving today, that if you'd like to learn more about what we do, if you'd like to help us out by volunteering or donating, anything of that nature, it's there for you.
I have a copy of the card that's back there. You can donate, and there's an envelope there for you to put your donation in. They take food and they take money, and it takes food and money. So consider picking one of these up back there and assisting in their program. Thank you. Let's thank them so much. Todd and Julie, now when you ask the question, do you know about food rescue? All the hands will go up.
Everybody says yes. That's
Thank
awesome.
you very much. That was a powerful presentation.
6 words: no neighbor hungry, no food wasted. Right? Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mhm. And for all of you, next week we have John Roth. John, most of you know from the college as a professor. We have 500 years that the Mennonites and Anabaptists are celebrating. And so I contacted him way back in, 4 months ago. And I said, John, I know your schedule's busy, but who do you recommend for us to have as a speaker? Because this is a special year. We want a speaker. And he said, my calendar's open that day. So I said, wow, that's great. So I think we're really fortunate to have John Roth come and share with us about his work. I think he'll talk more about the 500 years and not the Bible so much as the 500 years of Anabaptism. So come back then, bring a friend. We have a couple empty seats yet, so that's good. Fill them up. Okay, thanks. Yeah.